Why do we and the Pharisees fast much, but your disciples do not fast? Strange, isn't it? That I'm yelling at a doll? At a Jesus doll? Yes, definitely. But it's not just that I'm yelling at him, or just that I'm yelling at all. Well, it's what I'm yelling. Why do we and the Pharisees fast much, but your disciples do not fast? A curious question. It was back when it was first asked like 2,000 years ago, and I think still is to this day. I mean, we put together this whole big series on fasting. Lent with the Lord, let's fast. And if Jesus here, if he says that we shouldn't really be fasting, well, uh-oh. So the big question, did Jesus actually say his disciples shouldn't fast? Well, yeah, actually, he kind of did. And maybe you're thinking, awesome, fasting done, back to eating everything in sight. But hold on a second. Because yes, that did kind of happen. But like everything with Jesus, there was a very good reason. Now, if we're going to really get a handle on this whole Jesus and fasting thing, maybe once again we should take a quick step back. And you know what? Let's step back to somewhere we've been. And so in the ancient world, they fasted. Which meant that, of course, Jesus fasted. 40 days and 40 nights he's out in the desert. And then fasting just continued forward from there. So there it is. Jesus fasted. And if we're looking at St. Matthew's account of this story, Jesus was baptized in the Jordan River by his cousin John at the end of chapter 3. The Spirit of God descends like a dove. A voice comes from the heavens. This is my beloved Son with whom I am well pleased. And then chapter 4. Jesus, led by the Spirit into the desert, is tempted by the devil. He fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was hungry. Isn't that last bit fantastic? Afterwards he was hungry. Of course he was hungry. He fasted for 40 straight days. And yet, this is Jesus, freshly baptized and proclaimed as the beloved Son. So, well, I suppose it might be easy for us to think, well, maybe he wouldn't be hungry. Maybe fasting didn't bother him. Sure, I would be, but maybe not him. And yet, he was. And that is awesome, because he was like us. He was like us in all things but sin. But back to the topic at hand. There we have it, early chapters of this gospel, Jesus in a big moment, and what does he do? He chooses to fast. And not only that, but when the devil shows up moments later to tempt him, if you are the Son of God, command that these stones become loaves of bread. Not a chance. Sure, he's hungry, probably weak, probably tired, but he doesn't falter one bit. One does not live by bread alone, he says, but by every word that comes forth from the mouth of God. It's maybe the ultimate fasting mic drop. And then, if you fast forward just a couple chapters, the fasting, it just keeps rolling along. Imagine, you're on the mount, at the sermon, the sermon. Jesus has said remarkable things. You've heard that you are the light of the world. You are the salt of the earth. You've been told by him to love your enemies. You are one of the first people ever to hear the Beatitudes, for goodness sake. And then Jesus adds, when you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites. Now pause for just 1 second. Note what he said. When you fast. Not if you fast. Not on the rare occasion that you fast. No, when you fast. And then Jesus doubles down on that almost immediately. When you fast, don't look gloomy. And then he adds, well, when you fast, you also better anoint your head and wash your face. There he is, the Messiah, offering this powerful teaching to all the world. And right in the midst of it, what do we get? Fasting. So great, fasting is good. Everyone should fast. Why do we and the Pharisees fast much, but your disciples do not fast? Oh, about that. So yeah, that happened too. On the face of it, it is this fascinating twist. Again and again, we see Jesus as the champion of fasting. Later on in the gospel, we even have these accounts of him saying that some demons can only be driven out through fasting and prayer. But then all of a sudden, here we are, with the disciples of John the Baptist just busting in to claim that the very closest followers of Jesus, well, they don't actually fast. And the weirdest part, Jesus doesn't deny it. So what's the deal? Well, it's actually kind of beautiful, because in response to their question, Jesus asks his own, can the wedding guests mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? The answer? Well, for most any of us, we'd say no, of course not. Why would you bother going to a wedding feast, get ready to party, and be standing there in the presence of the bride with the groom celebrating and then say, oh no, yeah, not today, I'm fasting. Now, even for those who are fasting, those who do fast, you recognize there are days, there are moments in which now is just not the time. Right now, I need to feast. Right now, I need to get busy rejoicing. And that was exactly the situation that the disciples of Jesus were in. The King of Kings, the Savior, the Son of God was in their midst. So why in the world would they be fasting? It was a moment to celebrate. And for any of us, well, that's still true. I don't care if it's a Friday in Lent or Ash Wednesday or whenever you're fasting or abstaining or whatever. If Jesus Christ walks in the door, not just the little Jesus, not the doll, but the real Jesus Christ, if he walks in, do me a favor, stop. If he's right here, start feasting. But right now, he's not here. He died, he rose, he saved us, and then he ascended. And yeah, he sent his Spirit. And yeah, we're waiting for him to come again, but that's the thing. We are still waiting. The days have come when the bridegroom is taken away from us. So as Jesus says, we will and we do fast. We fast in recognition of our shortcomings. We fast in sacrifice to our loving God. We fast in preparation and in such hope that when he does come, my goodness, will the rejoicing and the feasting and the party be so very good. So should we fast? I mean, it's not even a question. Yes, absolutely, for all kinds of beautiful reasons. But today, because as Christians, we are doing our best to follow Jesus Christ. And we can look at him and we can see someone who is all about it. And yes, they did ask that question. Why do we and the Pharisees fast much, but your disciples do not fast? And yes, in that moment, those disciples were in a very precise and a very particular situation where they literally had the bridegroom right next to them. But for us, that is a goodness and it's a glory that we can only wait and hope for. Until then, our job is to keep doing whatever we can to prepare our minds and our hearts for that day. So in these wonderful works, these wonderful weeks of Lent, our Lent with the Lord, let's keep it up. Let's follow his example. Brothers and sisters, let's fast.